She serves as a full-time associate professor at the Arizona School of Dentistry and Oral Health in the Center for Advanced Oral Health. She works to support students, residents, and faculties treating individuals with special needs and complex medical conditions. She also works as a part-time associate dentist at Sundance Dental Care. She completed a certificate in advanced education in dental and general dentistry from NYU Langone Medical Center in 2013 and a master's in education with a dental emphasis from the University of Pacific in 2016. Her many accomplishments and contributions to the dental profession has earned her recognition as a master of the Academy of General Dentistry and fellowship in the Special Care Dentistry Association, the American College of Dentists, the International College of Dentists, and the Prairie Fractured Academy. Welcome, Dr. Duong.
Thank you so very much. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm zooming in from my office. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to see all of your names. I was going to say all of your faces, but I don't see everyone's faces. Feel free to video in. I'm a big fan of face-to-face interaction, and this is as close as I can get to you all. So feel free to zoom in and yay, hello, I'm seeing more faces. My name is Miley, like Aleda had said, and I've been with the AGD since I was a student. I graduated in 2012, and one of the reasons why I joined the AGD was because, you know, you don't learn everything in dental school. There's so much out there, and every day there's new information and so much information. How do you sift through all of that? And so I really wanted to be with an organization that could support me and provide me resources and help me throughout my career. And AGD has definitely been a great resource for me in the last 8 years since I've been a dentist. Well, I think one of the most important things is, I don't know about you all, but I don't come from a line of dentists. I actually decided during during my senior year of college that I love to smile and I want to help others smile. So I chose to be a dentist. I had no idea what a dentist really did. I just really wanted to help people smile. And so I came into dental school not really having a lot of connections or networking. And for those that already have a network, you're just at a bigger advantage, which is awesome. It's not a bad thing at all, but especially for those who don't really have a network, AGD has really become my network, my family. I've been able to make so many, not just friends, but mentors. And I think that's one of the most important things. I'm really involved, as you can tell, in a lot of different organizations, not just the AGD. My primary focus is on special needs. And so I work with a lot of patients who have special needs and medically complex conditions. And so I'm part of the Special Care Dental Association. I'm part of the American College of Dentists and International College of Dentists because I love volunteering. And so, but the thing is, AGD is really special when you compare it to all of the other organizations. I'm also a big advocate or a player in the ADA as well, because ADA is the largest organization, but AGD is the second organization, second largest. But with the AGD, I just have found so many great mentors that I can rely on, that I can call and text at any time. And I think that's one of the most important things that you don't get in dental school, or that you don't get from, sometimes you can get some mentors from residency, but AGD, I have been able to create so many lasting relationships that I know is going to last the rest of my career and maybe even after my career. So I really hope that if you're here, I appreciate that you're interested in the AGD, but I commend you for, and really thank you for spending the time with us. But I'm open to any questions that you may have, or I can talk more. I love talking about the AGD, so you let me know what questions you have, and I can answer anything AGD related or even just career-wise.
Perfect. And then as we segue to that, just as a heads up for everybody in the Zoom room, how we'll manage this. If you would like to, if you haven't used Zoom before, I have a feeling most of you have in some sort of fashion over the last few months. In the top right corner, you can click view. If you would like to switch it from gallery view to speaker view, you'll be able to see Dr. Duong front and center as she works to answer your questions. And then I do have all of you muted currently. To manage the queue of people who would like to ask questions, I ask that you raise your hand. As you'll see in the bottom, you will have the option to raise your hand. If you click on the participants list, at the bottom, it will give you the option to raise your hand. I will be able to see you. I'll unmute you, call on you, and then the floor is yours to ask any questions that you would like. Like Dr. DeWong said, feel free to turn your camera on. We can do our best to make this interactive, personal, feel a little bit human as much as we can. And if you also prefer, feel free to type in your questions in the chat box below. So all of those you can find in the box below. So I appreciate everybody being here. And it looks like we do have somebody raising their hand. So I will go ahead and unmute you. I see Michael Smith. Feel free to go ahead. You have the floor.
Please introduce yourself a little and tell us where you're from. I love getting to know, we're going to be peers as soon as you graduate. So dentistry is a small world, and it's nice to kind of get to know you already. So yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm a D1 at UTSD in Houston. So this is new to me. Definitely, gotten kind of used to WebEx and online classes. So kind of a familiar format. But my question was, do you have to do the AGD fellowship like in or not undergrad, but your 4 years of dental school, like to be part of AGD, or is there like a supplemental program?
Okay, that's a great question, Michael, and thanks for joining us and asking that question. I find that there are a lot of questions around fellowship, so I hope I don't get too long-winded with this answer. So the fellowship is an award that you can receive after you've completed a certain list of requirements. It's not something that you can achieve while you're in dental school. It's something that you work on after you can work on some of it during your dental school years, but it's something that you complete after you're a dentist, and you can only receive it once you're a dentist. And so there's 4 requirements to achieve your fellowship. One is you have to be a dentist member. So as a student member, so you have to be a dentist member for 3 years. So as a student member, your 4 years of student membership does not count towards those 3 years. So your 3 years start once you're a full dues paying like dentist member. That's 3 years consecutive, at least 3 years. The second requirement is that you have to complete 500 hours of CE credit. So with CE credits, every time you go to a CE class, you'll get 1 hour for every 1 hour 1 hour of CE credit for every 1 hour you attend. As a student, you can claim up to 50 hours as a student towards your 500. So if you, during your dental school year, gets 150 hours, only 50 of those hours will count towards your 500 of fellowship. And, but the great thing about CE as a student is that, I'm gonna try to move to somewhere quieter, I apologize. The great thing about CE credit is, whenever I talk to students, is the AGD provides you with sorry, I'm in the dark. I apologize. This is so unprofessional. So the CE, hold on. One of the great things about the CE transcript is a benefit that you get as an AGD member is it'll track all of the classes that you've taken. And I really love the CE transcript for students and residents, because when you go out to apply for a job, you can print out that transcript and it lists out all of this I call extra work that you've done on top of what you've done for school. And so it really makes you stand out against all of the other applicants, because you're saying, hey, I completed a 4-year or 3-year for those of you who are Pacific, but I completed a dental school degree, but on top of the demand that the time demand that it requires to complete dental school, I actually got another 50 hours or another 100 hours of CE credit on my own time. And that to an employer shows that you've invested in yourself beyond the minimum, right? So the minimum is completing dental school. But when you've gone above and beyond on your weekends, on your nights after dental school to go to these CE classes, it shows your commitment to yourself as a practitioner and to your patients and to the potential employer.
And so collecting all of your CE credits and making sure you report it to the AGD so it shows up on your transcript is really important from a standpoint where you can make yourself a competitive applicant when you're applying for jobs or even when you're applying for residency. But only 50 of those will count towards the 500 hours of fellowship if we were going to go back to the requirements for fellowship. The third requirement for fellowship is that you have to complete a 250 question exam. Sometimes it's 240, sometimes it's 250. Every year is a little different, but it's somewhere around 240 to 250 item exam. You get 4 hours to take it, and it's very similar to your national boards. And for a lot of students, I will recommend that you should take it as soon as possible after you graduated. The barrier to that is the cost, because it can cost about $600 to take the exam. And so many times as a new dentist, you'll take it maybe 2 years out or 3 years out or whatnot when you can afford it. But the sooner you take it, the more fresh that information is, because many of those questions on the exam are based on ideal situations. They're based on textbook answers. And from, if I may, from a personal opinion standpoint, this is not an AGD opinion, this is my opinion. The more you work as a dentist, the longer you are out of dental school, the more gray your decision making and your treatment options are. In dental school, we're taught like, this is the right way, this is very black and white. But as you go out into the real world, you will start to see that there are so many layers, so many different factors that play into treatment planning, treatment delivery for patients. And so a question on the exam might ask you very specific, detailed textbook answers about flowable composites or about GI liner. But as the longer you work, you'll start to say, you know what, I can argue that all of these options are, because it's a multiple choice test. You'll be able to argue all 4 of those options as correct because you'll know so much more because you've been practicing. So it can be a little bit harder to take the exam the further out of dental school you are. And so I would recommend taking the exam as soon as possible. The biggest barrier is the cost, because it does cost about $600. And then there are some resources as well. The AGD does provide you with you can purchase practice exam questions, you can take a review course. I'm from Arizona and I am really involved with our constituent, and so we organize a study club every year. It's like a 2.5-3 month study club. We meet each week and we prepare for the exam to kind of help you. I don't know about you guys, I'm a horrible test taker. I'm blessed that I passed my boards exam. I'm really good with patience and I'm really good with my hand skills, but when it comes to multiple choice questions, don't like it at all. I'm not good at it. And so I really look to the exam questions and structured study groups where I can study and really focus on test taking. And so that's the third one. So it's, let me just refresh your memory because I tend to talk a lot. So number 1 was to be a dentist member for at least 3 consecutive years. Number 2 was to complete 500 hours of CE. Number 3 is to take the exam and pass it. And then number 4 is once you've done those 3 things, you will apply for fellowship. That's another $600. And then when you've been approved, because the AGD will have to verify that you've been a member for 3 consecutive years, that you passed and that you have 500 hours. Then the 4th requirement is you have to attend a scientific session where you get to walk across the stage and get like hooded or, cap and gown and everything. And so that's the 4th requirement. But that's something you would do after dental school. But while you're in dental school, you can work towards that 500 hours by completing 50 hours. And then, like I said, just do really well in dental school so that you can take the exam and you're prepared for it afterwards. I know that the AGD has a branded program called the Fellow Track. And oftentimes the Fellow Track is really promoted at the dental school level and at the recent graduate level. And it really is just to kind of get the fellow word out there that, hey, you have this opportunity to get your fellowship. And if you join this fellow track, we have, we as in, the constituent or the dental school or whoever it is that's kind of promoting this fellow track, they're saying, we've organized this series of events that you can attend, and it'll help you towards your requirements for fellowship. Every fellow track is different. Like for our school, for my students who organize their chapter, every CE course that they put on goes towards fellowship, or is eligible for fellowship, and so they just call it their fellow track. And some programs will organize a whole study club, and that is their fellow track. So it's different between different states and different schools, but really, fellow track is just kind of like a brand name to kind of help increase hype around the whole concept of fellowship. If I may, I will say that it's very, for me, I take pride in having my fellowship because I truly believe it distinguishes me from other dentists. There are about 6,000 dentists that dental graduates every year. How do you distinguish yourself from that other dentist at the other corner or catty corner from you? And I like to use this example whenever I talk to my students is in the state of Arizona, to maintain your license, you have to complete about 23 hours of CE a year. That's less than one full day. Like that's less than 24 hours, right? Like you don't even have to, you only have to go to 23 hours of CE to maintain your license. I'm a dentist who, I'm a mastership, but I can say like I've completed over 1,100 hours of CE in the last 8 years. Do I want my patients, I take pride and I let them know like I've invested that much time because I care about my abilities. I care about my ability to deliver good quality care for you. And we all know medicine is changing because it's so advanced and technology is changing. I want to stay up to date for you as my patient. And that's, and so for me, my mastership and my fellowship is just one way that I show to my patients in my community that I value them and I want to hold myself accountable to be the best dentist I can be. And that's my reasoning, my own personal reasoning for getting fellowship and mastership.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great questions. All right. If you also have a question, feel free to raise your hand in the queue as well, or feel free to type it in the chat box and we will get to you next.
May I apologize. Travis and Elita, can I hand the microphone to you just for about 5 minutes and I will be right back?
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Happy to. That's okay. The real life world of a hectic dentist life these days are very interesting. But to follow up on Dr. Duong's comments, in the chat box, there's a little bit more information about fellowship if you'd like to learn a little bit more. Following up with what Dr. Duong said, one of the interesting things about fellowship and one thing that's unique about the AGD post-graduation is if you do want to seek that award, only 6% of general dentists have that award. So it does set you apart. It makes you unique. And the hope is that your patients value you as a dentist. But all right, I see actually Michael's hand raised once again. Do you have another question?
I do. It may be a little more specific to Dr. Duong. I also am in the Master's of Public Health program and is going to see, how that has played out in her practice and what benefits she got from that. And,
we'll wait for her to come back and we'll point that as the first question that she has upon her return. Great. And then in the chat box as well, I'll type in a little bit more information on what the AGD student membership gets you, so that you can do some research on your own. And hopefully a few of you got the notification or saw some of the information we've sent out. Thank you for coming to this. We'll continue it once Dr. Duong arrives. By attending this and coming to our booth, you have entered to win a free iPad as part of our raffle. So once the session is over, we'll announce that to the winner directly. So hopefully we make good use of your time, and hopefully you're the winner, fingers crossed. But yeah, I'll actually throw it over to Aleda because Aleda works very directly with our students and our student chapters. And maybe she can share a little bit more information about what our AGD student chapter program, and even talk about our international influence. We've had some exciting new groups we've seen with AGD student chapters. So feel free to take it away for the time being, Aleda.
No problem. So like Travis said, I do work with our student chapters. I am the staff liaison at AGD headquarters. And so right now we're in about 85% of the dental schools throughout the nation, and we have started touching internationally. So we have a chapter in Dominican Republic, and we have one in Quebec now, in Canada, and Puerto Rico is still US territory, but I throw it in there. So you may have a student chapter at your school. You may be involved. If not, you can always go to our website to search to see if there's a chapter at your school, and it also lists the contacts that you can reach out to get involved with your student chapter. The student chapter is a great place to start earning CE towards the fellowship that Dr. Duong mentioned, and also, build relationships. A lot of times the local constituent is associated with the chapter, and they work together. So sometimes some of the AGD members from the local constituent level will come to the chapter and participate. I know in the current times, things are a little different. A lot of things are virtual, but it is still a great way to get started with the academy and earn CE and make those connections as well. So yeah, you can also go to our website. And if you're on here and you don't have a student chapter at your school, I would love to talk to you as well to start one at your school. We can start a chapter as well. So if you go to the site and see that you don't have a chapter, and I think we can probably drop the link. Oh, I think you're a step ahead of me, Travis. You can always reach out to me. My name's aleda.lane@agd.org, and we can start that conversation to start a chapter as well. And just to throw a few more plugs about some of the benefits that the AGD offers for students, we do have a scientific session every year, and that is free for our student members. And so we're in the planning process now of planning the new dentist lounge. And so that's where we have CE opportunities, networking events, a reception, and different opportunities for students. So in 2021, it's going to be in Austin, Texas. So if you're in Texas, yeah, definitely stop by. So you just need to find your way there, and it's free for you guys. And it's a great way to meet other students across the nation and some of our leaders. Dr. Miley Duong is going to actually be a speaker for one of the events. So yeah. So if you have any specific questions like regarding your membership or anything like that at this moment, I'm happy to answer those questions. Oh, it looks like Miley's back as well though. So that's perfect timing.
I'm giving you guys all a tour of the office I work at. You guys have been everywhere in the office. Oh, sorry, I apologize. I couldn't get reschedule a cement crown patient, but just cemented a crown. One more happy patient.
That's okay. We were just talking a little bit about New Dentist Lounge Austin in 2021, which we're really excited about. Dr. DeWong and our team have finalized some exciting education so stay tuned for more information on some of those speakers, what the experience looks like. And again, it's free for you as a dental student member. And then I'll plug one more thing, and then we'll go back to Michael's question. Dr. DeWong, Michael had a question for you specifically again, as you came back, but one unique thing about the AGD as well is if you're looking post-graduation and navigating that experience, as an AGD member, your first year out of school, you do get 1 free year of malpractice insurance through Dentist Advantage. So that's one nice benefit that hopefully makes things a little easier post-graduation. So one nice thing about membership, but I'll direct it back to Michael once again to ask Dr. DeWong that question.
All everybody. So my second question, Dr. Duong, you mentioned you did the MPH, and I'm also doing the dual degree MPH. So I was wondering how that has been like helpful in your practice. And right now I just started off as D1, not to overload myself, just taking one class. So it's health promotions and models. And I was wondering how the theories that we're learning right now have played out in like planning any, like events or something.
That's a great question. So I mentioned that I love volunteering, and I'm sure we all as dental students or pre-dental did a lot of volunteer events. And I'm sure at all your dental schools, you're for sure participating in Give Kids a Smile. And so public health initiatives like that. One of the reasons why I chose to do my MPH is because I wanted to have a better understanding of public health and community health. My primary job is teaching at the dental school. And then I'm in private practice part-time. I'm just a part-time, not just, but I'm a part-time associate. And so my personal goals were never to be completely in private practice. I really believe in being able to create systems or improve systems at the like legislative level or at a state level. I'm also very passionate about identifying needs in the community, such as working with patients who have oral cancer, patients who have terminal illnesses and infectious diseases. And so the MPH has really helped me be able to teach others, not just the students and the residents I work with and the faculty, but even in practice when I have patients who have certain health conditions, I have a better understanding of all of the different resources out there in my local community that I can direct them to. My MPH it gave me skills to work with social workers. It gave me skills to work with different health officials, different players in the state level that, legislators, but not just legislators, but also organizations, nonprofit organizations. And so I remember one class I took helped me better write grants so that I could apply for grant money or government money that I can then use to either create programs at the school, or I've worked with the Oral Cancer Foundation. I've worked with the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society, different organizations. I'm able, because of my MPH background, I have the language or the words to communicate with them and be able to serve as like a dental expert or serve on a board so that I can work with them to bring dental health care into the populations that they serve. So for example, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, I can provide expert information about the important healthcare related to their oral cavity so that they can relay that information to their people, because they may have a lot of medical experts, but they don't have a dental expert. And so then with my public health background, I'm able to say, use examples and things that I've learned in my MPH to say, hey, this one program in the state of Minnesota does this. Have we considered doing this in Arizona? And so that MPH gave me the background knowledge to be able to talk about things and explore ideas. It gave me the confidence to be able to call up, talk to people who are not dentists, but they work in the nonprofit sector, and be able to feel confident to say, hey, I will be honest, having the MPH letters behind your name gives you legitimacy. It builds your reputation. So when they see that MPH behind my name, they know that hey, this is someone that I could most likely trust with information. So then I can say, hey, I know dentistry, I know public health, I know you're trying to do this for your patients who have hemophilia. Let's work together and figure out how we can get more oral health services to your patients with hemophilia. And so, and from because of my my part-time efforts in private practice, if I have patients that will come to me because of my association with the lymphoma or the hemophilia society or whatnot. So that kind of boosts my ability or my value to the practice that I work at. But it also says that I'm here, like I'm going above and beyond just the average patient that's healthy. I want to take care of people who are vulnerable, who need a little extra tender loving care, is what I like to say. And so MPH has really opened a lot of doors for me because it's given me the language to and the knowledge to actually have conversations to make an impact in the community. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much again.
You're welcome. No problem.
Great questions. Alrighty. If you've just joined us, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to direct a question to Dr. DeWong. As well, a few people have been utilizing the chat box for specific questions, so feel free to utilize that as well.
Is there anyone who doesn't know if they have a chapter at their school?
That was a good question.
Because sometimes you have a chapter, but so what we found is sometimes there's like one or two people who are kind of taking the lead for a chapter, but because there's only one or two of them, it's hard to plan events. Or it's hard to recruit members or even get the word out that, hey, we have a chapter. And so if you are interested and are willing to, we're always looking for students to kind of step up and maybe partake in a leadership position to help plan CE events. You know, and feel free, I'm just gonna talk until someone has a question. So you know, you can just raise your hand or put in the chat box. Oh, we have one at Temple University, yeah, in Minnesota. That's awesome. And maybe, you know, the next question I'll ask if no one has a question is like maybe we can share some CE ideas. But I was just gonna say that you know, because of COVID, there are a lot of limitations to having in-person events, and you know, Aleda, Travis, and I, we're here to kind of help your chapters if you need help planning CE events. I know that you know, one of my I was talking, so I help support two chapters here in Arizona. We have two dental schools, so Midwestern University in Glendale and ATSO University. I've actually connected the two of them because if we're going to do virtual, instead of each chapter doing their own thing, why don't they like take turns planning an event and just invite each other's schools? And so like in September and October, ATSO University organized a CE event each month, and then they just invited Midwestern to join. And so it was like Midwestern students and ASDA students on the same Zoom call, and they could chat and, you know, learn together. And now Midwestern they organize the November one and they'll organize the December one, and they're inviting ASDO into that Zoom. And so now it's like, instead of just talking with your students that you go to school with, you're able to connect with students at a different school. And so if there are any chapters out there that are interested in doing something like that, like I know, you know, for Minnesota, if you guys want to work together and let's plan like a CE event where Minnesota, Midwestern, and ASDO come together, we can plan something very, you know, very easily, especially now we can use Zoom. It's, you know, I have a Zoom account, so we don't have to worry about a platform. AGD has one that we could probably use too, but we can find a speaker and then, you know, find a date and time and this gather together. Maybe we each, you know, bring our favorite candy and eat, or bring dinner and just eat and hang out together. But that's something that's really that I've been trying to kind of promote, like getting chapters together for events together.
That's great. Wonderful. And I see somebody does have their hand raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute you. And Colton, I believe the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So like, what are your guys' biggest tips on increasing the engagement and the number of attendees for CE events in virtual? Because I know kind of as we go along this virtual environment, kind of Zoom fatigue and, you know, people's willingness to be online more just generally tends to decrease. Do you have any kind of tips on keeping that engagement high from the beginning and continuing it throughout?
That is the $1,000,000 question. I know. Were you on our webinar last night?
I was not, sadly. No.
Oh, no, it's okay because I don't want to be repeating anything from last night if you've already heard last night. So I know that a few of the chapters will do raffle prizes if they have the funding. So they'll do like, if you stay till the very end, we're going to do a raffle for a $25 Amazon card. That's something that we used to do, even in lunch and learns in person when we were able to do in-person meetings. And that was just a way to get people. Before COVID, we were able to get people with food, and now we can't really do that. And so some chapters have started trying to figure out if they could find sponsors who can provide the money to deliver food, like that is going to require a lot of planning to make sure that the food gets to the right place. I know that I was at a meeting a couple weeks ago, and they were trying to get a charcuterie board and a non-alcoholic, like Shirley Temple or non-alcoholic drink out to every member. And like mine never got, like I never received mine, so you're dealing with a whole different layer of another variable, right? But people are trying different things. I know that one idea that we had talked about last night that my student chapter is thinking about is putting together, when it's a school, it's a little bit easier, I think. What we might be doing is putting together like cookies and little mini things to decorate the cookie, making like a cookie care package and having everybody pick it up from campus, and then coming together for a meeting and everyone decorating it while they're listening to a CE. And then at the end, everyone shows their cookie and there's like a vote for who made the best cookie or something. And so just trying to do little touches like that to increase engagement. One other suggestion that I've received, while it's not the best, in my opinion, because it's not like you can force everyone, but when you make a collective decision to have everyone turn on their video, people tend to be more engaged in the moment, because then you're on video and you tend to pay more attention, or because you have that face to face, you can have that, there's that level of accountability to be engaged, to be involved, and to ask questions. Another thing is, Zoom has the breakout feature, and so I've done some CE events where I will have 3 or 4 other support teachers, I guess, or assistant, facilitators, and we will divide everyone up into 5 groups, and then we go and I'll lecture for about 10 minutes on something, and then we break out into a smaller group of 5 or 10 people, and then we do an activity together. And then we come back into the main room, and then I'll lecture for another 10 or 15 minutes. And then we break out into smaller groups and do an activity. Then we come back and then wrap up everything. So being able to create smaller groups inside your Zoom meeting is very helpful, because then people are engaged, there's an activity. So, planning CE events is a little bit, it can be more, you might need to be more detailed in this day or in this era. Before, I would, my students would just schedule a CE person or a speaker, and they'd talk for 40 minutes and then be done with it, right? People would just eat and sit and listen. But with Zoom, we really do need to be more engaging. And so it may require that you work with your speaker to be more interactive. And so like I've had to change the way I've taught my CE or my lectures. And, and research says that the attention span of, an adult learner's attention span is 8 to 12 minutes. That's why I say like, I only talk for about 10 minutes, and then I do like some kind of activity, whether it is breaking out in groups, or I say, for 5 minutes, I'm going to need 5 people in the audience to ask me a question. So then as a speaker, I'm taking ownership. So this might be you guiding your speaker a little bit, but guiding your speaker to say, hey, you have to take ownership in engaging the audience. I as a, the student organizer, I don't want you just to sit back and lecture. I want you to engage our student members. So holding the speaker accountable to engage the audience. And so little thing, and there's lots of little tips, and these are tips that I learned from getting my master's in education. It was, like sometimes what I also do is I have like a bag of balls, and if I have a list of the attendees for my class ahead of time, I'll like draw a ball from my bag of balls and have them ask me a question, or I will ask them a question about what I just lectured on for 10 minutes. And it really keeps people engaged because they're like, oh no, I might get called on. And so just little things like that. Yes, from an attendee perspective, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be put on the spot. But if you as an organizer really want to create an engaging, impactful experience, you kind of have to do some of those things that aren't so fun, but ends up hopefully creating a fun experience. I hope that helps.
Great questions. Great questions. All righty. Feel free to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question and direct it to Dr. DeWong. Feel free to type it in the chat box. But that question reminds me of a program that the AGD has. If you have one of the stellar AGD student chapters, we do have a Chapter of the Year award every single year. Or if you work directly with one of the faculty at your institution, we do have a Faculty of the Year award. I highly encourage you, if you are a part of an AGD student chapter, to apply for those. Those are some great ways to get some recognition and a little bit more funds for your student chapter to do more fun things, get creative with technology. Like Dr. DeWong said, we all had to be flexible this year. We have to get creative, and we have to be willing to try new things.
If I may, one example of what a CE event could be is another thing I did earlier this year is because I work in a special care department, we have a lot of cool gadgets and different equipment. And so we did a tour, speaking of a tour of my office, I did a tour of my special needs clinic and kind of talked about, what a wheelchair is and how to use a wheelchair lift and how to use a wheelchair lift. I had a student serve as my volunteer, and I papoosed and I showed tips on how to papoose someone. I talked about how to take a glucometer reading. For those of you who, I don't know the range of D1, D2, D3, D4, but you're going to have many patients with diabetes. You are going to want to know how to take a glucose reading on a patient. You are going to have patients who take blood thinners because they have cardiac problems. And how do you take an INR reading on their finger? So I did like hands-on demonstrations via Zoom, and because of the movement, because I was moving around the clinic, I was showing different equipment. Like having people give a tour of their facility might be a great thing. I know that one of my other groups, they did they reached out to a day program for people with special needs, and they set it up so that the site manager, whatever the title is, but they walked around and introduced different people with different special needs. And the special, the person with special needs, they'd be like, hi, my name's Philip. I have Down syndrome. And, and like, today we're playing soccer. And it was just nice to kind of just get out, like, even though you're inside or in a Zoom room, having the speaker be out and about and having some movement instead of just a lecture on the screen is also a great way to engage. Another idea that we talked about last night is I do like a hands-on suturing class. So again, you can plan it, if you can plan it appropriately, try to get you can get like a sponge, a little kit together, like a sponge, some hemostat, scissors, and sutures. Make a little kit together, have your students pick up the little suturing kit from school or like from a centralized location, like the library or the front desk or something. Because I don't know how your school campuses are, but our students are staggered in when they are on campus. So whenever they're on campus, they can just go to a centralized location, pick up that suturing kit or something. And then, on the day of the event or the evening, you can log into Zoom and actually do hands-on suturing. So I've done that. I did it for Louisiana. I don't know if there's anybody from Louisiana. I did that last year before COVID. I zoomed in from Arizona and taught a suturing class over Zoom. So I know it can be done. And so that's something that you can do as well. So, trying to find ways that are different than just PowerPoint lectures is a great way to engage your
your members and doing something, different, because I bet every other student chapter on your campus, whatever virtual event they're doing, it's probably a PowerPoint or, slides or keynote or whatever. So trying to, get things that are moving and grooving and where the attendees actually using their hands can be a great way to engage your members.
Wonderful points. See that Michael Smith's hand is raised once again. Take the floor. It's all yours.
All right. Sorry to overload you with so many questions.
No, bring them on.
But I also am considering teaching once I graduate. And I was a former teacher at a high school in Texas, and I really gained a passion for teaching. And just, the learner-teacher relationship is really unique, and I really enjoyed that. But I definitely want to be practicing dentistry. So kind of wondering what your day is like and how you decided to balance, dentistry with teaching.
Okay. That's a great question. I appreciate that question a lot because education is my passion. It's like I said, it's one of the reasons why I align myself with the AGD because, like I said, my mastership is one of my proudest things because it shows my dedication to educating myself. So education, I truly believe is very important. And I love sharing knowledge. And I find that, you sound like that too. I actually was voted most likely to teach in dental school when I was in dental school. So I kind of already knew I wanted to be in education. It's at the time, 10 years ago, the only instructors I saw were people who had been in practice for 30 or 40 years and came back and, they had all this experience under their belt. And I thought, oh, well, then I can't do it until I'm older, or I can't do it until I have 30 or 40 years under my belt. I was very lucky in that after I did my residency program, the school that I was at, which is a dental school that I graduated from as well, they are a non-traditional school, and there just happened to be the last month before my residency ended, a position opened up and my director offered it to me. And it was because, I think I live and breathe teaching, like whether it's like just some new trick I learned or, one small pearl of wisdom that I picked up that day, I'm like sharing it with everyone. But I found what I've learned is that now 10 years later, there are a lot of dental schools and a lot more dental health professionals that are not that don't have 30 years under their belt, and that's okay. And that you bring a different and fresher perspective. One of my advantages may not be that I have 30 years, but it is that I am living and breathing what it's like to be a new dentist. And I can better, I can relate to the students now and residents now because I'm right there with you guys as you guys are doing dentistry. So a lot of the issues and barriers that I'm facing right now are going to be barriers you face, because many of those faculty members who have 30 years under their belt, they're not facing the high debt load that we have. They're not facing the hardship of finding a job right now. 30 years ago, it was predictable that you could graduate and be able to pay your student debt off and be able to get a loan from the bank to start a practice that would be successful. In today's world, there's so many other competitive variables that affect your ability to get a job that is secure. And when I say secure, I mean a long-term job, because I have a lot of friends who have a different job every other year because it's hard to find a stable job that you can stay at. It's hard to find a job that doesn't cause you to question your ethics, or that you have to work 6 days a week just to pay your student debts off or whatnot. And so I can relate to some of those struggles, but because of so my structure right now, to answer your question, I apologize, I don't think I answered your question yet. I work 4 days in education, 2 days in private practice. The reason why that's set up that way is I am part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is where if you work for a nonprofit or a not-for-profit organization, you qualify to be part of this program where if you pay your loan, your monthly payment on time for 120 months, it doesn't have to be consecutive, but it needs to be 120 total months while you are full-time, and I think full-time is like 32 hours in their definition, but as long as you work for a nonprofit or a not-for-profit organization for at least 32 hours a week, you pay off 120 months of your student loans, whatever you owe afterwards will be forgiven. And so I knew that I needed to be full-time at the dental school, because at the dental school, for full-time is 4 days. Some dental schools are 5 days. I'm very lucky and blessed to be at a school that just requires me to do full 4 days. So then I can do 2 days in private practice. I choose to do private practice because I'm also a big believer in, like, if I want to teach something, I should be able to do it. I'm also one of those people who, because I love to learn, I like to learn like things and then go and do it in private practice and then go teach it at the dental school. Like, for example, last week I did a course on LPRF, which is a plasma-rich fibrin membrane, where instead of using your allograft, bone graft, or cancellous, graft bone, and then placing a membrane over it, I can draw blood and then use a centrifuge and then grab the fibrin from that and use it as the graft and the membrane for treatment of defects of the bone, sockets after you extract a tooth, grafting of gingival defects. So now that I've learned that in a CE class, I'm going to go and practice it in private practice, and then I'm going to go teach it at the dental school. And so I like that mix. I also love clinical dentistry, so I don't want to give it up. And so that's why I do that balance. And you don't make as much money in academia as you do in private practice. But I make enough to pay my bills. I make enough to pay off my loans. I love that after 120 months, whatever I owe is forgiven. And I went to a private dental school, so I have my MPH and my master's in education. So 3 degrees equals $550,000 of debt. And so I want to pay my 120 months and then get everything else forgiven. And so I'm sticking with my full-time job at the dental school. But the thing is, after I finish and get forgiven, like, my passion is, if it works for you and you're done after that and you want to go start your practice, perfect. I love education. After I pay off my loans, I'm going to stick around because I love education, but you don't have to. I have many friends that they chose not to do dental school. They chose to go work in a community health center. Community health centers are not-for-profit or nonprofit organizations that also qualify. Hospitals qualify. There's a lot of different organizations out there that qualify as a not-for-profit nonprofit. Like, I have friends who went and worked for the Arizona State Department for Public Health. They don't do any dentistry at all. They create programs and policies and work at the legislative level to make an impact on dentistry, and that counts. So they're not even doing dentistry, like clinical. So there's a lot of options that fall under that public service loan forgiveness program, if that's something that you might be interested in. But that's how I balance my time, because I love teaching. I love clinical dentistry. But again, I also chose to work 6 days a week for the last however many years. So, there's a balance between that and your personal obligations as well. And I do want to, encourage you not to forget about your personal passions, projects, your personal life, your family, and other things. Dentistry should not be your only thing in your life. I think you need a life outside of dentistry as well. But that is an option. Like, that's the way I've decided to run my life for a while. I'm actually in the process of trying to cut down my days to 5 days. So I have weekends. But you do what you need to do, especially in the beginning. A lot of hard things in life require sacrifice, but you have to make that decision yourself. Like, it's your decision to make.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Great questions all around. To be sensitive to Dr. DeWong, we're nearing 1 p.m. here in just a few minutes Central Time. Any final questions that you have for Dr. DeWong?
My handle is on my name of my camera. I always tell everyone, all of my students or people that I get to meet and interact with, like, once you know me, I'm yours forever. Feel free to get a hold of me. I haven't been the best with email. I don't mind. I'll type my email address out in the chat right now. Feel free to email me, but I'm not the best at email. But usually with Instagram, like Instagram, not Facebook either. Instagram, if you send me something, I will like give like I'll give a quick response. But emails, I'm working on it, I promise. And then we can set up a time. Like I set up times with just like one-on-one sessions with students just to answer any questions or talk about projects. Because especially if you're interested in public health, I organize like the Arizona Oral Cancer Walk. We do Day for Special Smiles, which is very similar to Give Kids a Smile, but it's for people with special needs. Give Kids a Smile, a lot of different like Super Sealant Day. There's a lot of different community health organizations and events out there that if you're interested in starting something, you know, back to Michael's question about how has the MPH helped you, because of the MPH, I love being able to help people start projects in their community if it's something they're really interested in. And we can talk about the different foundational elements that you need to consider when you want to start projects out in the community, initiatives out in the community.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Wong, and thank you everybody for coming. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you making the time to learn a little bit more about the AGD, ask some wonderful questions. Dr. DeWong will depart. Myself and Aleda, the AGD staff, will stay around for a few more minutes if you have a few more questions. If we don't hear from you, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And thanks again, Dr. DeWong. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And thank you, Travis and Aleda, for facilitating. Have a wonderful time at ASDA BLC.
Yeah.
So many acronyms. Okay. Have a great one, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Feel free to type in the chat, raise your hand if you have any questions. We'll do a little bit of a rolling slide. It sounds like there's other places for you to head. There's an afternoon program. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll share a little bit more information via the PowerPoint of some things that might be interesting on AGD's member benefits. Let's see if it works.